Is there like a typical case of like an individual who contacts you and says, hey, I got a problem?
Yeah, so they're all very different, but they're all very similar. So every client has something negative they don't want online. Now, obviously, the first thing we would like to do is try to remove it, but that's easier said than done. There are specialists out there who can remove things, typically overseas guys, typically not cheap, usually in the ballpark of like 5 to 10,000. So that's always a last resort. But first case is always trying to reach out to the editors. If you can get it removed that way, it's always great, cheap and easy. Sometimes, hire an attorney to fire off a good letter, citing certain legal concerns, whatnot. Now let's assume that all the removal options fail. The next best option is to bury it. And then that's when things get unique. So I used to work at a really big reputation company, Reputation Defender, long ago. And they kind of seemed to have a cookie cutter process, in my opinion, where each client, depending on the package, got a certain amount of work and is always dictated. And I noticed that things don't necessarily work that well that when you do it that way. It's best to customize things. So for one client, a press release might do well, another client interview might do well. So after the first month, the first month we'll introduce them, get them on a bunch of variety of sites, but then we reassess, see what does well and what doesn't. So yeah, to answer your question, every client's different, everyone's similar with the same concern. Just, they want page 1, 2, and 3 clear, anything negative on page 5 plus.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought the point of like customization, which is what we do, versus more of a cookie cutter approach, which is maybe what a larger corporate firm would do with all their systems in place. So with that said, like, are there some general strategies that you find that are working like now? I mean, sometimes things change, right? Something that worked last year is not working as much today.
Yeah. So one thing we've noticed is with a lot of people that call us, if you're a doctor or CEO type, it makes sense to write about you. We get a lot of phone calls from people who have the attitude, I want to keep a low profile online. I just don't want to have a negative article on page 1. And the problem is, you have to write positive content to outrank it. You can't just make things disappear. I mean, sometimes you can, but when you can't, let's assume. And these people don't want more content online about them because they're private people, and you have to tell them, well, either the internet's going to decide what to write for you, or you have to publish something. So a really fun tactic we come up with is doing fictional people. Nothing illegal about it. These people don't exist, but the newspapers that we publish to, the interviews, they don't know that. So if the person is a stay-at-home mom or a young college kid, or just regular employee, just run the mill, not executive, it doesn't make much sense to have interviews done about them and all these press releases and news articles and bios. So we take that person, same name, but they could be a marketing entrepreneur where they love posting things online. No one knows any better that's a fake person. We have real pictures that we have access to, copyrighted, and no one knows any better. So that's been a really fun tactic that works really well. The problem at hand is that we run into is that these people don't exist. They're not actually getting organic traffic, which wasn't helping the ranking. So we've been utilizing a click team, which has been doing great. So we have people across the country, different computers, real people every day who just read articles we tell them to read. Google sees them reading these articles, thinks those articles are popular, and puts it to page 1. So in Google's mind, it's an algorithm, but what it's thinking is, okay, so this fake John Doe is all of a sudden really strong online presence. Everyone's clicking on it, everyone's reading it, everyone's sharing it. It's really popular, clearly. Let's move it to page 1. And then this news article about old John Doe from 10 years ago arrest, it's old news. We'll put it on page 10 now.
Right. And so that strategy is good for people who don't really want to, they don't want to be online, but they have negative stuff. They want to look good online.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Versus, as you mentioned, like maybe a higher profile CEO who maybe has gotten in some hot water and, maybe has a government website, some negative stuff on a government website or maybe on a news article, like how would you sort of approach that?
In that case, it's obviously up to the client, but I would recommend doing the real him since he is in a position to talk about the company and he is noteworthy. It makes sense. And it's kind of two birds, one stone because it will help with the business SEO. So when Google sees that a brand is getting a lot of traffic and a lot of mentions about it, it helps the website rank higher to outrank competitors. It's not the goal of the service, obviously, but it's a nice free byproduct.
Right. And so I know that you do a lot of press releases. I mean, press releases, it seemed a couple of years ago, they were sort of not working, but now you do a press release, it seems to pop.
Yeah, press releases are doing great. It's all about the right outlets. One of those things, the more you pay, the more you get. And I think a lot of our competitors are unfortunately just using the one outlet. They must buy massive bulk with that one outlet, and they publish a few stories through it. And Google doesn't like that. It's only going to rank one or two of those stories. Right. So what we do is we have 5 different outlets we utilize. And that seems to be working really well.
Cool. And so I don't know how specific you want to be about pricing, but I think
I'm fully transparent.
A lot cheaper than the big agencies. We don't do long-term contracts.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Yeah, so it's really interesting. All these people, they want 12-month commitments, which is absolutely ridiculous. You don't even know how the service works yet, and you're going to commit to 12 months. It's mind-blowing. And obviously, you can always just cancel your credit card and dispute it or whatnot if someone decides to scam you. But it's mind-blowing that they think they can get away with that. I think all these companies, too, they're charging so much, not because they're doing great work, and it's not because they're going to make a huge profit margin. It's Google Ads. It's really screwed everyone up. Luckily for us, we make good content, or you do more than me. People want to read it, and you have a naturally organic, great ranking on Google. But a lot of our competitors, they're paying $30, $50, $80 a click just to be seen. And as a result, that massive overhead they have to pass on to the consumer. Luckily with us, our reputation precedes us, 12 years in business. We rank naturally well organically, and we don't have to pay per click, $0 per click. So that savings is huge. I think because we've been doing it so long, we've been able to get a good streamlined process. That's been really helpful. Our profit margins aren't huge at all. But to answer your question, the content creation is $249 a month, $250. And then the click team is the minimum is 300 clicks a month at $1.15 per click. Usually 300 clicks is sufficient unless you're like a Fortune 500 CEO and you need a lot of clicks and content. So in the day, you're looking at $594 a month, which is a typical package. 2 to 3 months needed typically. And the good thing about the package is it's a month-to-month basis, no commitment. And the first month is 100% money back guarantee if the client's unhappy for any reason. So that's why we have no complaints and a lot of happy reviews. We're at 95%, I would say. We can't win them all. But in the unlikely event, we can't help the person and, we just, maybe got from top of page 1 to middle of page 1 or bottom, just couldn't fully get it off page 1 or 2. No problem. Here's your money back. We're sorry we couldn't help. It's not a reason to make people upset. There's a saying in our industry, one happy client tells 3 people, one unhappy client tells 10,000. So we just want everyone to be happy at the end of the day.
Yeah. And then I guess at that point, after you said, 2 to 3 months, it's up to the client how long they want to go and how long they want to push the bad stuff down and provide protection for the future.
Good question. Yes. So, at the end of the day, most people don't click to page 3, and that's, in my opinion, a good stopping spot. But if you are extra concerned or have a bigger budget, then get pages 1 through 10 clear. So each month the negative will go lower and lower, and it's up to the client basically decide when it's adequate based off their own personal needs and budget. But the good thing about it is when you do cancel, no hard feelings. We're not going to delete the work. You bought it. It's yours forever. Worst case scenario, if there's a follow-up to the story, it could go back from page 5 to page 4, maybe page 3. It'll never go back from page 5 to page 1. A lot of potential clients reach out to us like, do I have to pay this forever? And it's no, you don't have to pay this forever. Those are scare tactics I think that other companies are using. once it's suppressed, it's suppressed. People don't click to page 5. They're not going to find it.
Yeah. And the last thing, I think a big difference that maybe people don't realize is like if they call a corporate firm, they're talking to a sales rep who really is kind of, I mean, yeah, they want to do a good job, but they're motivated to close and to earn a commission.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, and not necessarily in the trenches, whereas when they call and talk to you, I mean, you're doing this every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. One of my college jobs was doing retail, and the company had a policy of no commissions there, which I thought was really interesting because it wasn't this high pressure sales environment. It was much more relaxed. So I've adopted that for our company. So everyone's salary based, you get what you get. And it keeps these high pressure tactics away. I don't want my employees trying to upsell people for no reason. So yeah, that's a good point.
Cool. All right. So this was sort of a broad approach to affordable online reputation management for individuals. Perhaps in the future, you and I can get together and dive into some other topics.
Yeah, look forward to that.
Thanks, Matt.
My pleasure. Take care.